said yes and no because it was a little bit of. But what I think is that if she was stable at the time, what year was that? 1982.
82, 83, yeah.
82, 83. So I think that if she was, and I could be wrong, but I think if she was stable, she was married, she had a house, she had a job at that time, and it was a healthy environment. I don't think that we would have went. I think she would have kept us here. So I mean, that's just.
But of course, you remember the earliest days.
I get sacrifice. I get it. I understand that, giving a life to Islam, giving the kids to the Creator, and all of that. It's just, I mean, you have to be a really strong person to be able to do that. Yeah, I mean, how many people today would do something like that? Even today, let alone back then. Would send their kids to a foreign land.
Okay, let's take a step back because there's a very important narration regarding your earlier days as a child. You remember being in Africa, possibly you said maybe in Sudan or Tunisia, both of which I remember or recall Malika Mauna Muhammad I saying that there were journeys made to those countries.
Mm-hmm. It was Tunisia, Sudan, yeah.
There's an incident which involved yours truly in diapers again, or maybe not, because this was just
You weren't at that time when I was maybe a year and a half. You weren't even born yet.
Okay.
That's my very first memory.
All right.
You weren't born until later on, like until when we got to close to Egypt. We moved to Egypt. When we went to Egypt, and then subsequently we ended up in New Jersey. Let me tell you, from the time that we moved from we got to Egypt, and then we went to Malta, and then from Malta we went to Italy, and then from Italy we came back home. From that time, that's around that time you were born. This was after we came back from Lebanon.
Okay, so in fact, what you're saying is that after the circulation from Africa, Europe, Middle East, somehow we come back, or you come back, because I'm not born yet, yours truly, and so I am born after the return to the U.S. soil, or on the U.S. soil. So, I mean, but just recall something. The hammer incident took place in New Jersey, correct? The hammer as in when I hit you upside the head with the hammer.
When you were 1, yeah.
Okay. How old were you when that took place?
3 or 4.
4 would be accurately closer to 4.5, 5, or 3 would be closer to 4?
It would be closer to 4.5.
So that would have definitely made yours truly about 2.5.
1.5, 2.
At 1.5, 2, I hit you with the hammer. Did you have to go to the hospital for that?
I had to get stitches, yeah. I was laying down, so yeah.
You were laying down. And was it true that it was about you watching TV and I told you about go to bed and turn the TV off?
No, you just told me to go to bed.
How is it that, from the time of me being born to the time of that incident, I personally, even beyond the time of that, like that incident, I practically I heard about the narration. I personally do not remember that actually taking place.
I remember, like it was yesterday. I was laying down and I was going to sleep. And he came in the room and he said, go to sleep, go to sleep. And I think I either ignored you or I said, I'm going to sleep. And then I was going to sleep. My eyes were closed, and then all of a sudden I get hit over the head.
And it was with a hammer?
It was, yeah. It was something like that, yeah.
And at what point from, let's say beyond that, so you were 4 or 5, from what point did you actually start reciting Quran, or how long did she actually have, from what were your earliest recollections of us reciting, or you particularly reciting the Quran?
I was maybe 6 or 7.
And at the age of 6 or 7, that would have put yours truly at 4.
Yeah.
So wouldn't it have been closer to maybe 5 or 6 instead of 6 or 7? Because you also mentioned that previously that there was this narration of when I was asking for Surah Bayyinah to be recited to me. You said that you all had been studying that for a while.
Yeah. Well, it was maybe closer to 5, 6. But I remember it was no, I don't remember studying as much as remembering like it being recited and you hearing it. I don't think I really studied it all that much until we got to Brooklyn.
And Brooklyn as in Islamic Institute, or was that?
Brooklyn, the first place that we went to in Brooklyn
Was it Masjid Taqwa maybe? I don't know if it was.
yeah. Was that
what it was called? Masjid Taqwa?
Masjid Taqwa, Masjid Ikhwa.
Masjid Ikhwa. Okay.
Yeah. One of those masjids, Taqwa, Ikhwa, all of them, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then we ended up on
By the way, before you go too far, does the name Sayyid Adli make any ring any bells to you? Sayyid Adli?
Adli? No.
Okay.
No. But I remember we ended up on Park Place. Park Place. And that's where Issa's father started coming around.
Okay. And how long was it that from the time of Park Place to the time of us embarking to Africa as the 3 boys going to Africa? How long is the difference between that? From Park Place to the first time, which was when we actually sailed over or flew over to Kaolack in Senegal.
Park Place was 1978.
Park Place was 1978.
No. It's 1970. Yeah, 1978, 1979.
Okay, maybe closer to 1979, 1980.
They said it was born in 1980 or 82, something like that.
Issa was born in 79.
79, exactly. So he was born at Park. That's where he was conceived, at Park Place, and he was actually born in Tub. at Park Place. 1970.
When let's say that between 79, because obviously Isa is born in 79. So let's say
we went to Park Place in between 77 and 78.
Okay. If you went to Park Place in 78, then yours truly is only about 2.5 years old. Because remember, yours truly is born at the end of 1975.
75, okay. Yeah, so and he was born in 1979, so it had to have been 70, so yeah, like I said before, 77, 78, 79. That's when we went to Park Place.
Do you remember the incident when Isa picked up coal and was burned on his hands?
Yep.
How old do you think he was then?
He was maybe 2.
Okay. So if he was 2, making it 1981, and you left for Africa in 1983, so you would just give it 4 years between Parkchester and the first time going over as a unit of 3, associated with a group that was going to Medina Bay Niass in Kaolack under the leadership of Imam Hassan Cissé. That brings us to the Imam himself, Imam Hassan Cissé. What do you recall of him?
Not much. Not that much of anything really. Just that she was some type of religious figure. That's it.
Okay. Did you get a sense that he was an imam, or was it made like? Did you see him leading any prayers? Did you pray behind him?
Hassan Cissé? No, not that I remember. No.
Not during any time that you spent in Africa.
Not that I can remember. No.
Okay. And then we talked about the fact that we came back over the dispute between sending us to Touba or keeping us in Kaolack. So we came back to the United States. And the second time we sent over again, which was just a few months later. But only to this time to Dakar, and from Dakar to Touba, correct?
Yeah.
And when we were received in Touba, were we not received at the compound of the Khalifa General of the Muridiya in Touba itself, Sheikh Abdul Ahad himself, correct?
Yeah.
How long did it take you to actually see Sitting Abdul Ahad once we got to the compound?
A couple of days.
Okay. And what was your sense when you first saw Sitting Abdul Ahad Mbake, Sitting Touba, 1983, 84?
I didn't know what to think. I just thought that he was a religious person. That's all. Like he was like a big sheikh, like a religious person.
Did it appear, I mean, now that you look back at it, and for what you're saying that he was a big figure religious person, did he seem to have any spiritual resignations whatsoever?
Yeah.
You?
Did I?
Did you, I mean, now that you look back, or during that time that you actually were in his compound, did you have a sense of any type of spiritual or mystical events or anything related to it or to them?
Mystical events?
Okay, in other words, you said he was as a religious figure. So as a religious figure, did you have a sense of him having any type of spiritual capacity or capabilities in that sense?
Yeah, I thought he pretty much was a spiritual entity that, was on a different level than the rest of the human beings around him, yeah.
And how did you compare him to the Imam Hassan Cissé? Or was it no comparison for you between the two of them?
comparison. Yeah, I wasn't really
A comparison there.
thinking about us and CC at the time.
Right. In other words, it was, it was past news, old news. Then, I mean, you remember there was a time you were playing in a courtyard with the red and black ball. And, he happened to walk outside, unexpectedly. It was just him by himself. And then he, observed you kicking the ball in the courtyard. The ball was by him, and then he kicked it.
Yeah.
And just walked on about his business. Okay. There was at some point, the Magal or some big event that had taken place while we were still in the compound. I don't know if you recall an incident where, he has somebody, he summons somebody and then he dips into his pocket and brings out a bunch of coins, and next thing you know, we're told to come get sodas. So he's basically told someone to go buy a bunch of sodas for the American boys. Is this something that resonates to you?
Yeah. I remember something like that.
At what point, under what circumstances, was there a transfer from Tuba to AKF's compound in Isaias?
At one point, one evening, we just came and got us. We got in the car, and that was it.
Got in the car from Tuba all the way to Dakar, back to Dakar, basically.
Back to Dakar, basically, yeah.
Okay, because there was like one villa that we had initially landed from the airport back in '83, and then from there he took us to the compound of the Khalifa General at the time, Sheikh Abdullah Hanbaki, and literally left us at the door with the bags. And those were actually his instructions, because we have, Sheikh Mustafa Gende Fatma saying exactly that, and he was the one who had orchestrated or had, dispatched him to his uncle's compound or his granduncle's compound with that, to do. So that's how that took place. But then I believe that there was, yes, AKF himself came and got us. He was not told prior to coming to Tuba what his task would be. He was just summoned all the way from Paris to Tuba. And when he arrived there, he was, informed that he would be taking these American boys to his compound, and that was it. Now, when you take into consideration AKF's value at that time, even in nowadays, it was a good amount of, Allah Ta'ala definitely did give him some wealth. But, it goes back to what you're saying. I mean, how better can you describe that? A millionaire is called by someone who is thousands of miles, like on the other side of the world, to come and, it's not that many hours, respectfully. It's about eight hours at least from Paris to Tuba, considering all other traffic or whatever, especially back then. And the only thing he has to tell him as he arrives at 2 o'clock in the morning is take these American boys to your house. So, but of course the story goes on, because, when you look at Isaias, you're learning about, a 007, French 007, a British mercenary movie night you got there going on with Dialis and Dynasty, and as we talked about before. So we're getting, slowly but surely we're getting somewhere, because it does so happen that we actually wind up back in Medina Baye Niasse in 1988. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. So this is, again, I think, very, very important, processing that we're making in these probe, secret probes, getting somewhere with the information that we are gathering in order to justify the findings in terms of the Quranic Revolution Declaration 2021, 2022 forever, and 2023 in preparation. So, I mean, but you consider what has happened over a period of 40 years, and at the end of the day, you cannot negate the fact that those events took place and are affecting or are playing a role in what is happening today.
Well, yeah, of course it is.
So, and just yes, so that's the thing. So exactly what is where we're getting. But I think it's very important, really seriously. This was very 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 important for us to really be able to understand and grow with, really. Like Ahmed Fall would say, grow with.
They would say what?
Grow with.
Grow with?
Grow with it.
Grow.
Yeah. By the way, he still speaks good. I mean, his English has improved a lot. Ahmed Fall. Ahmed Fall. A lot. MashaAllah. Well, brother, inshallah, I think we're going to have to pick up from there, we're going to have to go to, the recessings.